Let's see how you do in a real fight, pretty boy.
Okay, so this guy, okay, I thought that this guy was gonna get up and fight, but instead he's just like,
Prepare to die.
hi everybody, welcome back. I am Robin. I've been gone for quite a while. Basically after the 2024 elections, I just kind of focused on surviving. So I've been gone for a while. I did come back a couple months ago when season 4 of the series You came out because I had a lot of feelings. But I worked, I swear to God, you guys, I worked like 40 hours on that video. I even made a second video and I can't look at Joe Goldberg's face anymore. So maybe one day I'll release it. This time I decided I was going to do my makeup and talk to you about a movie that I have seen. I was flipping through Netflix and I saw a movie. Very interesting premise. Star-studded cast, Charlize Theron, Kerry Washington, Lawrence Fishburne. So it must be a good movie, right? So the movie is called The School for Good and Evil. Luckily for me, it was based on a book. So the the basic premise of the movie is that... Oh, you want some ASMR? So the basic premise is that there are two young women named Sophie and Agatha. Agatha is treated like garbage because they think that she is a witch, and Sophie's treated like garbage because she kind of acts like a Disney princess. You know, she talks to squirrels and stuff, and I guess people feel threatened by that. They are taken to this school for good and evil, but it turns out that they have to rely on their friendship in order to remember that, you know, good and evil are very high-minded concepts, and that life is a little bit more complicated than that. So I watched this movie not realizing that it was also a book. And good news is that doesn't matter. You can sum up more or less what has happened in the movie in a couple of chapters. Like they leave so much out. And so I figured that I would make a video and I would try my hand at some mediocre makeup for you all to see how that goes. So let's get started on the School for Good and Evil. So I should preface this by saying that no one has sponsored me to do this video. I doubt that any beauty company would be like knocking down my door so that I can tell everyone how to make mediocre makeup. But if you want, I can put the products that I use down in the description box. Okay, it starts off with two twins who are battling, it looks like. One of them is presumably good and one of them is presumably evil. One of them is British and one of them is American somehow.
We go another round. We don't have time.
So the makeup look that I'm trying to sort of evoke is the look that Rafal has. The two brothers are running this school for good and evil, and they say that they need to keep the balance. So Rafal more or less is like, I don't want to be second fiddle anymore, inferring that evil and good can't really live in equality, which is true. Like, we'll get into that. I want to be the only one. I want to win. So it turns out that Rafal is dabbling in blood magic. Blood magic is always bad. So he uses his blood magic to attack his brother. So the good one, whose name I do not remember, is like, no, we can work together. We need to like work on the balance. And the evil guy's like, no. So they continue to fight and they fall over the edge, and it is shown that Rafal dies. So it is many years later and they show a young woman who is a beautiful blonde child. Her name is Sophie, and she has an evil stepmother, and she's played by Rachel Bloom of Crazy Ex-Girlfriend fame. It turns out that she's living this kind of Cinderella type life in that she is expected to take care of her family. She's expected to, you know, do all the chores, but also it's got a little bit of a Belle situation where everyone in town seems to hate her because she's got her head in the books all the time. She's always reading books. In the same town called Gavaldon, there is a young woman named Agatha, whose mother is thought to be a witch.
How do you know she is a witch? She looks like one.
She does spells.
Need something.
Yes, a love potion. In that they will drink it and then love nobody else ever again because they are now dead. Alright, while I'm blending, let's talk about Gavaldon. Gavaldon is a town full of, well,
She's a witch.
so against all odds, it looks like Sophie and Agatha are best friends, even though they're quite an unlikely pair. Sophie's mom died when she was quite young, and Agatha was very kind to her, and they've been friends ever since. They go to the bookstore where they meet Patti LuPone. I don't understand how this movie was so bad. And she calls them readers, which will come back later. She tells them about the School for Good and Evil. The School for Good and Evil is meant to raise the people who end up being the ones who are in the storybooks. Anyone who has been in a fairy tale presumably would have gone to the School for Good and Evil. How do you get there? Apparently the last person to go to the School for Good and Evil that they know of lived in Gavaldon, and she disappeared one night and was just gone. This girl's name was Leonora. She was never seen from again. Heard from? She was never heard from, she's never seen again. So Sophie goes up to the wishing tree and she wishes that the School for Good and Evil will come and take her away. So it turns out that Sophie is expected to drop out of school so that she can work to make her family more money. And she tells Agatha that this is the last straw. She's leaving. Honestly, like, good for you, girl. I can't do this anymore. Everybody hates me. I hate them. Agatha is like, no, you can't leave. You know, I'll talk to your mom. I'll let her know that, like, you are super important and that you should go to school and, you know, we'll figure something out. She's like, please don't leave me. And Sophie promises that she won't and then immediately breaks her promise. Agatha catches her and gives her shit for basically lying to her. And then Sophie is taken by this kind of wraith thing. She is very excited to be leaving, and Agatha is less so. They're left in a clearing, and this giant bird shows up and kind of grabs them. These are called stymphs. The stymph brings them to the School for Good and Evil. And they are dropped off at their respective schools. Except the problem is that Agatha is dropped off at the School for Good and Sophie is dropped off at the School for Evil. Sophie drops into this bog. It's not a bog, I don't know. It's some kind of like body of water, the moat. They drop into the moat and there are kids just falling from the sky. So we meet Hort, who is one of my favorite characters.
Can I touch your hair? Most witches don't.
Aggie wakes up in this beautiful courtyard and she is surprised, and the other students will judge her very harshly, saying that she is probably a witch. Where have we heard that before? And she is taken into the school by these very belligerent looking fairies. We cut to Sophie, who is swearing up and down that she is not supposed to be there, and nobody really listens to her. She meets Lady Lesso, who is played by Charlize Theron, who has an accent that is...
Very lucky candidate from the outside is selected for admission to this hallowed institution.
confusing. Actually looking not too bad. I wish y'all could see what I see in my mirror because it looks so much better than the monitor. Then we meet Kerry Washington. We learn that the people in the School for Good are called Evers, like they get their happily ever after, and the people in the School for Evil are called Nevers because they never get their happily ever after. Tells her that she is definitely in the right school and puts her in a frilly pretty dress. So it is now time for the two schools to watch a demonstration from the Evers princes because last year Good won. I mean, they don't really go into like what that means, but presumably it's like, oh, you know, in their respective like stories and in the school and, you know, whatever, the Evers always win and the Nevers always lose, which, you know, that would be lovely if that was actually the case. All right. Yeah, I'm starting to feel the fall of it all. All right, let's start on the face. Princes are putting on a, you know, like a demonstration. And Agatha is less than impressed, as was I, frankly. But then shows up Tedros, who is the son of King Arthur, the King of Camelot, but he was killed by his son Mordred. So presumably this is his second son, his younger son, probably his favorite, you know, now, although he's probably dead. So he shows this beautiful feat of strength.
Don't face of strength! I command first of it!
One of the Nevers, I'm going to be calling them Nevers and Evers now, just so that you remember the nomenclature and because it's fun. So one of the Nevers decides that he has had it with the Evers just kind of taking their thunder, as it were.
Let's see how you do in a real fight, pretty boy.
So this guy, okay, I thought that this guy was gonna get up and fight, but instead he's just like,
Prepare to die.
so he wins because he has Excalibur. Okay, I feel like you shouldn't be allowed to use enchanted weapons until, you know, after graduation, but what the hell do I know? So Morpheus shows up. I'm sorry. Lawrence Fishburne, who is the schoolmaster. Remember those two guys that were fighting at the starting? He is the, you know, one that was wearing blue, and he's still wearing the same outfit just to make sure that we know who he is. Welcomes everyone, and Agatha says that it's a mistake that she is there, and Sophie says that it's a mistake that she is in the school for evil. And his answer is,
there are no mistakes in the school for good and evil.
Nothing can possibly go wrong.
Agatha's roommates decide that they don't want to stay in there with her and they lock her in. She goes out onto the veranda to try to find a way to Sophie. And Sophie's roommates try to kill her. Agatha sees Dewy and Lesso. They're talking about how it seems like a mistake that these two girls are in the opposite schools, but Dovy's like, okay, well, if it is a mistake, one of us is going to probably die, so maybe we don't talk about that. Maybe we just kind of do our jobs. She sees a large pool of blood turn itself into Rafal, the bad guy. She's going to grab Sophie, and they're going to try to leave. So Aggie grabs Sophie and brings her to the schoolmaster, and they see a book that is basically narrating them. And it is called The Storian. The Storian is played by Cate Blanchett. How was this movie so bad? I like this idea of calling the book The Storian. I think that's very clever. As opposed to historian or herstorian. Storian. I like it. In order to try to prove that she's not evil, she needs to have true love's kiss. Here is my eyeliner. There is many eyeliners like it, but this one is mine. I'm going to do my best. Do not judge me. Moment of silence. All right. Their classes are similar, but different in very key ways. I'm going to try to do this symmetrically. And while I'm trying to do this symmetrically, I don't want to talk about anything because symmetry is notoriously difficult to achieve. Cousins, not sisters, but I'm happy with it. Beautiful. Maybe just a little bit. Nope. You know what? Here's a tip that I'm going to give you. If you see something that looks almost perfect and you're like, all I have to do is this small little thing and then it'll look perfect, don't touch it. Leave it alone. Come back to it maybe later, maybe once everything's dry, maybe after a couple of hours and you're like, oh, I need to touch this up, because otherwise what ends up happening is you touch it and then it's ruined and then you lose however many minutes that you need to fix it, or it's ruined and you can't go back. These look fine. I'm leaving it. So, speaking of beauty, Agatha's class is beauty class. That is taught by Michelle Yeoh of Everything Everywhere All at Once fame. Agatha gets a fail because she can't smile, which, I mean, you know, as a rule, if someone comes up to you and tells you to smile, you should not do it. So I can't really be that mad at her. Sophie is expected to learn how to become ugly. According to ugly class teacher, whose name I did not get, being ugly is freeing. There's a certain amount of like truth to that. When I was a kid, I wasn't exactly the most, you know, popular of people. I wasn't the prettiest kid. I wasn't this, you know, I was a weirdo, and so like that kind of taught me to learn how to, you know, appreciate the other parts of myself. I mean, pretty privilege can get you a lot, but the older that you get, you know, the more you have to rely on those parts of yourself that you learn to love equally, if not more so, than the way that you physically look. So, like, I get that. Sophie doesn't seem super interested in this. She's not having it. She does not want to be ugly. But Hort helps her. He thinks he's helping. So they need to recruit somebody for Sophie to kiss as, you know, true love's kiss. This kid comes and sits down with Agatha at lunch, and his name is Gregor, and he essentially is he's just not very good at school. He kind of talks about how he pulled a Dread Pirate Roberts. If you know, you know. One of the big problems that I have is that I often don't blend this jawline very well, which I'm sure you've seen in some of my other videos. So I'm going to take special care to blend it today. And I can see it on the monitor, which will help. So after having met Gregor, Agatha seems pretty confident that Gregor would be like down to kiss Sophie. Adventuring just isn't for him, and you know what? Not everybody has main character energy. So she tells Sophie that she found someone for her to kiss, and in order to prove that just finding someone does not mean that they are your true love, it's time to enter the Blue Forest, and we meet the forest gnome, whose name Yuba. He is there to teach them about the dangers of the forest and, you know, to remind them that things are not always as they seem. Foreshadowing. Tedros comes up to Agatha and basically tells her that she's not like other girls because she doesn't swoon all over him and she's like interesting to him, which barf. She gives him a letter from Sophie, who has told him that she wants to hang with him or, you know, whatever. Yuba is careful to tell us that just because something is beautiful doesn't mean that it is safe, which is what we learned when we watched Midsummer, right?
Pretty pansies! But pretty can sometimes kill you.
The thing about Yuba is that in the second book, he is gender fluid, but who knows whether they're going to actually do a second movie. Oh, so I doubt that they're going to keep that. Agatha sees Gregor again, and he tells her that he's failed yet another class. Now, I failed to mention that it turns out that if you fail in this school, you don't get kicked out. You get, like, transformed into some kind of monster or something, which really should be in the fine print if you're going to apply to go to this school. She tries to tell him, hey, listen, you have to be careful, because if you get a third fail, something terrible is going to happen to you. He gets scared away by something and he starts to run off into the forest. It's also really hard for me to focus because of this tonal shift, and I don't mean in the movie, I mean Yuba's forehead. So Gregor runs off and he automatically fails, and then he disappears in a puff of smoke. Okay, so I have this duo glue, which more or less, when it is no longer blue, when it's no longer, you know, visible, that is when you're supposed to put it on your eyelid. Do I wait for that? ADHD. Absolutely not. But I'm going to for y'all. So please appreciate the pain that I'm taking. Meanwhile, It's time for Unique Talent class with Lady Lesso. Every ever has a never nemesis, and vice versa, right? And the only way that you can stop being in conflict with your nemesis is for one of you to be destroyed. They have unique talents in order to help them achieve this. She goes up to Hort and asks him his unique talent, and he grows a single beautiful chest hair in order to show that he is working on his werewolf transformation. Dot turns her desk chocolate. Both of them look really constipated when they're trying to do their special talent, but hey, I'm not the director. And then she turns her attention to Sophie, everybody's favorite witch who's not a witch. And Sophie says, well, my special talent is calling animals, because true good people can call animal friends. Hesta, her sort of roommate, person who doesn't like her, she starts to goad her, so they get into an altercation. Oh, sorry, I say Hesta, it's Hester. I listened to the audiobook when I was like reading this. Audiobooks are valid. I have ADHD, so I like to listen to books while I do, dumb shit like this. And so Hester pulls a dragon out from a tattoo. Whoever designed her tattoo is a 50-year-old who got the tattoo when they were 16 versus someone who is 16 with a tattoo. Hester's dragon starts to chase Sophie all over the place, and Lady Lesso is just freaking loving this. And so Sophie calls on the help of her animal friends. And she calls a swarm of bees that attacks Hester's dragon, and in so doing, Hester starts to become more and more distraught, and so Lesso has to stop her because apparently you're not allowed to kill anyone until after graduation. That's nice. I'm gonna do the in the book thing now. I was gonna wait to the end, but I just can't. In the book, she is supposed to call like a goose, like a golden goose, because that is like showing that she is pure of heart, but the golden goose like lays an evil egg. She's doing super well in all of her evil classes up until this point in the book, even though she is like swearing up and down that she is not evil. So I don't know if this like swarm of bees is supposed to be indication that she is evil, but I like bees. Bees are great. So I kind of take umbrage at that. But like I said, there's just so much that they're missing that I'm gonna let it go for now. The bees take the shape of Rafal, and he goes to Sophie and tells her that she's doing wonderfully, which visibly makes Lady Lesso look like jealous. Lesso takes her aside and says, hey, you can't tell anybody that you saw Rafal, just between you and me, okay? So obviously Sophie goes straight to Agatha and tells her, yes, if an adult, I hope that like no kids are watching this because this is not very PG, but if an adult tells you to keep a secret, don't do it. So Agatha is now in her wish fish class. So basically they go up to the pond, they make a wish, and the fish kind of show you what that wish would look like. And then Agatha comes up and she rescues one of the children who was in the pond because she had failed 100 years previous. And she dies. I mean, set her free, but also she's dead now, so I don't know how to feel about that. So Dewy is like dumbfounded by this. So after having freed one of the wish fish, a Stymph shows up, and Agatha finds out really quickly that it's actually Gregor. So that's what happened to him. And Tedros' unwanted ass just comes up and freaking kills him. So Dewy seems really like shook because according to her, Agatha is the first like real good that the school has seen in a very long time. She like actually did good magic. Tedros approaches Agatha later on and says like, hey, you're a stuck-up bitch. And she's like, well, you killed Gregor. Sophie is taken to what they call the Doom Room for some reason or another. Honestly, I think it's because she like talks to Tedros once. In the book, it was like a lot more impactful. There was a lot more like crazy shit that happened. In the book, she straight up murders someone. But in this, they take her to the Doom Room. They say You gotta be more evil, girl. And then they cut off her hair. So what does she do? She turns this into an opportunity for a makeover.
Makeover, 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 makeover.
So, look at me still trying to talk. So, it's time for them to unlock what they call their finger glow, which is basically like their magical powers. And they all line up and wait to receive their power. And here comes Sophie, who in the book, her finger glow is like hot pink. They don't really talk about the finger glow color here, which I guess, you know, you could fill a book with stuff that they didn't put in. And they did, and it's called The School for Good and Evil. We see a montage of just fit after fit after fit after fit. This doesn't convince Tedros to want to be with her. I mean, just because he wants to sleep with her doesn't mean that he wants to be with her. So Agatha says that, you know, he wants someone who is a good person, not someone who's beautiful. So they basically trick him. Sophie goes up to him while he's in archery class and she asks if she can try, and he tells her that she can't because you have to have a pure heart in order to hit the bullseye. And she cheats and gets Agatha to do it for her, and so that's enough to convince him. I mean, honestly, that doesn't surprise me. He wants to sleep with her. He's going to find a way to do it. So the two of them become like this power couple that everybody is really pissed off about. The Evers are mad about it. The Nevers are mad about it. Everything kind of comes to a head when Tedros invites Sophie to the Evers ball. I don't really talk about it much in the movie, but essentially, like, the Nevers don't really get a ball. The Evers do, you know, they treat the Nevers like second-class citizens, which, like, I get, you know, because they're evil, but it's like, if you're going to have a school that's supposed to be equal, this is not equal. So, hearing Tedros invite Sophie to the Evers ball, the Evers and Nevers get incredibly angry and they have a fight. And Lady Lesso brings the students in front of the panel of teachers, and they call him the schoolmaster versus the headmaster, which, all right, I wonder if that's like a British thing, because by the way, the series is British. Like most of the characters are not British in this movie, which also annoys me. I have a feeling that if the Brits got their hands on it, that they would have done a much better job. But hey, I mean, look at the poster behind me. You see where I stand. Yes. There we go. The schoolmaster says that they need a trial by tale. Then you go into the Blue Forest and you have to meet in the middle before sunrise in order to prove that you are really true love, like true lovers. The trial by tale in the book is like this whole big sort of school-wide production to see like what the rankings of the school are. Who's the top ever, who's the top never. Because, like, there's a lot more sort of importance placed on how well the students are doing. And, like, everyone can kind of see it. Sophie and Tedros are thrown into the Blue Forest. And Sophie, not knowing that these beautiful flowers are actually dangerous, gets attacked. And so what does Agatha do? She turns into a bird and comes to help. In the book, Agatha turns into a cockroach and, like, hangs out with Sophie and gives her sort of, like, cues and help and, you know, sort of teaches her how to be good so that she can, like, lie to Tedros, more or less. So here, she saves Sophie's life. But when a Reaper comes to attack Tedros, Sophie does not help. And so Agatha comes and saves his life. Tedros realizes that Sophie isn't what she said that she was. Sophie basically blames Agatha, saying that she ruined everything. So Agatha is caught and Dewy corners her and says, "What were you doing? You shouldn't have been in there." And so she's like, if you thought that your friend was truly good, then why didn't you just trust her? And Agatha says something that I would say. I don't think anyone is truly good or truly evil. Some people are truly evil. But in terms of truly good, like, I don't think anybody is truly good. I think it's like the garden that you water. So Agatha more or less mentions that she saw Rafal, and Dewy seems terrified and shocked. She said that she told the schoolmaster and he didn't do anything about it. So Dewy says, all right, we got to do something about this. Meanwhile, Sophie is locked in her room and Rafal comes to her and manipulates her into thinking that she has nobody else, that, you know, everyone's against her, and that if she allows herself to become her true evil, that she'll be set free. And she starts to become ugly. I don't get it. In the book, throughout the course of her tenure at the school, Sophie keeps having dreams that she's going to kill Agatha, you know, and it becomes clear that she is going to be her nemesis. And so she feels like this deep anger and pain and resentment just kind of creep into her heart and makes her feel more and more. She feels herself turning into this hag. And so in the book, when she finally embraces it, it makes sense that she becomes ugly. But it doesn't make sense that she suddenly turns ugly when she decides to be evil, because the whole freaking point of the scene that we just saw was that beautiful things can be evil too. It just removes the whole, I hate it. He offers her blood magic and she takes it. So, all the teachers are together. Lady Lesso is there, beauty teacher is there, and a bunch of the other people are there. And Dewy says, okay, well, Rafal is back. And everyone gets really worried about this, except Lady Lesso, who gets very excited. Evil's finally gonna win. And the beauty teacher is like, yeah, no, that's not what's gonna happen. Like, he didn't want just for evil to win. He wanted to destroy the school. He wanted to, you know, rule the world and just be a king on top of a pile of corpses. Meanwhile, Sophie is getting back at the Evers ball. Tedros comes up to Agatha and tells her he loves her. Speaking of timing, here comes in ugly Sophie, tells Agatha that she is her nemesis. Finally, which again, in the book, it's like a much more eventful thing. So Tedros says to Agatha, you know what? That's it. We're going to go attack her. And Agatha's like, but evil attacks and good defends. Yeah. They show up to the Nevers school and they're having the first annual Nevers ball. They're all dancing. They're having a great time. And the Evers attack them. And so Sophie says, ooh, that's pretty evil of you. And so she puts all of the Nevers in beautiful clothing, much more traditionally pretty, you know, like light colors and whites and golds and things like that. And then she turns all of the Evers into, you know, stereotypical sort of evil characters. She puts them all in black. She gives them scars that look really fake and really bad. And then they all have a fight to a cover of Britney Spears' Toxic, which I don't hate. They all start fighting. It's chaos. Sophie banishes Agatha. Hort hits Tedros over the head and he goes down like a rock. And so Sophie is like, okay, that's it. This is my time. It's time for me to settle a score. So she goes up to the schoolmaster's quarters and she decides to enact her revenge. And when the schoolmaster shows up, it turns out it's not the good one. It's the bad one. When we thought that the good schoolmaster had won, really it was Rafal. So this whole time he has been pretending to be good. He has been sowing discontent. He has been turning good vapid. Rafal manipulates Sophie. You did this to yourself. You're all alone. You only have me. And let me tell you, that is right out of the abuser's playbook. He tells her that they are each other's true love and that they should share true love's kiss. How they're both evil at heart and how they both deserve to be happy. And so they kiss. And then he becomes imbued with like this, I don't know, magical kiss power. And he tries to destroy both schools. And Sophie realizes what she's done. Agatha, after having spoken to Tedros, comes in and she tries to stop Rafal. So he takes the quill from the Storian and throws it at her. And Sophie, in a shocking turn of events, jumps in front of it and sacrifices herself, which basically removes his extra special powers. So the school comes back up. Tedros shows up. Luckily, he's there. He's got Excalibur. He's ready to go. And he beefs it. So, of course, the two women do the job for him, which is what they do. And they beat Rafal, and all is well, except that Sophie is dead. So Agatha holds Sophie and she kisses her with the love of a sister, and that true love's kiss brings Sophie back to life. And there is a portal that opens up, and so Sophie says, listen, you should stay here with your true love. And Agatha turns back and kisses Tedros and then says, I'm not leaving my friend behind. And then they both go back together. The last thing that we see is as they're heading back to Gavaldon, we see an arrow hit one of the trees, and that arrow is split in half by a knife. Let's talk a little bit about the things in the book that were left out that were important. In the original, the schoolmaster was neither good nor evil. No one was really sure. He had this blue, sallowy skin, and he made himself look younger so that he would appeal to Sophie. The Circus of Talents, where Sophie commits mass murder. That is not in the movie. The fairies are former evil students that, you know, were punished for failing or whatever. And the wolves are former good students. Yeah, so Sophie kind of gathers everyone together and kills all the fairies and all of the wolves. Like, but even before any of the like Ever's Ball, Never's Ball happened, they just kind of leave it out. There's just a lot of nuance that's missing, you know, in this, and it really bugs me because it's like, why did we do any of this? Just so many things that kind of are left by the wayside. There's like this whole internal like struggle that Sophie's having about how do I get what I want, but also like make sure that I don't hurt my friend. Not to mention the fact that Agatha is supposed to be like aggressively plain looking, and this actress is one of the most beautiful people I've ever seen in my life. Honestly, I don't think that they're gonna have enough to do a second movie, but if they do, I'm totally going to be doing it here. So please let me know how you like this video. I really appreciate everyone who has come and who has commented, who's watched the videos, who's subscribed. I really, really appreciate it. It's really just you guys who are helping me to build this channel. If you know anyone who likes makeup, terrible movies, reading, please, please, please share this with them if you think that they would like it. I'm going to be putting up another video in 2 weeks. I'm going to try to keep to the 2-week schedule. We'll see how it goes. Also, let me know what you think of my final look. See you next time. Bye. Of course, we're still recording. Agatha goes off and tries to get into the school for evil. But while she is doing so, she comes across this smoky, ooh, see, this is why you don't pull your cheek down when you're doing that. That bees? Trust me, I'm going to do Wicked at some point. But today is not that day. They're talking about how it seems like a mistake that these two girls are in the opposite schools, but Dovy's like, okay, well, if it is a mistake, one of us is going to probably die. I did it again! Oh, yes. Yes, delicious. Ooh, let's start with some eyeshadow. I totally prepped all this yesterday, and then I just freaking beefed it. Where is my... Okay, we will fix this. No. If an adult tells you to keep a secret, that's... My top half is giving Rafal, but my lips are giving Sophie.